Community is better than loneliness. He says 2 is better than 1. And at the end of the verse, it says that a threefold cord is not quickly broken. And now I want to quickly say that this is not saying that marriage is better than loneliness, because this is not saying that singleness equals loneliness. That's not what this is trying to say. This is talking about companionship. This is talking about community. This is talking about friendship. That we are created, God has created us for community, to do relationship with one another. So if you're married, yes, that's great that you've got community. But if you're single, if you're not married, if you're a student in high school, you can still have community. God has created you for relationships with one another. But so often what we experience is not community, but it's isolation. So often what we live within in our society of social media and phones and all those things is that we're experiencing ever-increasing loneliness and isolation. There's some statistics that are sobering to me. It says that 3 out of 5 people, so 60%, feel lonely. And that statistic is only increasing. There's a study from Harvard that said 43 of young adults reported increases in loneliness since the outbreak of the pandemic. And then this baffled me. It says half of lonely young adults in a survey reported that no one in the past few weeks had a meaningful conversation with them that made them feel like they were cared for. Over half of lonely young adults said that they didn't have one single meaningful conversation over a course of a couple of weeks. My wife and I serve as an Apartment Life team, which is like a ministry where we get to live at an apartment complex and host resident events. And so we were doing an event at our downtown complex, and we met one of the residents, and we were like, "Oh, how long have you lived here?" And they said, "Oh, I moved in just after the pandemic." And we said, "Oh, that's great," and just kind of small talk. And then they mentioned towards the end of the conversation, they said, "You're the first people that I've met since I've lived here." They lived there for over a year and a half, and they didn't know a soul. And they expressed to us that there was isolation in their life and loneliness. We encouraged them that, come to church. It's a great place of community. To be able to have people who know your story, who care for you, who will check up on you. But it just broke our hearts to hear of the isolation and the loneliness that people so frequently experience. And some of this that I'm saying, it might be resonating with you. And I don't want to just assume that just because you're here at the church and just because you're in a room with a crowd, that does not mean that you have community. Community is this verse. He's not saying that you have 300 friends on social media. He's saying that you've got a friend who can lift you up. That it's 1, 2 is better than 1, a threefold cord. So I'm not asking if you've got 300 friends on social media, if you've got 1,000 followers on your Instagram account. I'm asking if you've got 1 or 2 people who know your story, who know your heart, and who are caring for you, who are holding you accountable, who are encouraging you, do you have someone in your life who can mourn with you when you're mourning, who can rejoice with you when you're rejoicing? And on the flip side, are you being that kind of person? Right? Are you the kind of person who's being a community for somebody else, who's encouraging them, weeping with them, mourning with them, celebrating with them? I want to encourage you that if you find yourself without community right now, if you find yourself in isolation, would you take a step of faith? Would you take a step out into community?
Hey, thanks for watching. To find out more about Houston's First, you can subscribe to our channel or you can go to houstonsfirst.org.